He wanted more than equality, he wanted ownership. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the towering figure of the civil rights movement, dreamed not only of dismantling Jim Crow laws, but also of building a foundation where Black Americans could claim their economic future. The marches, the speeches, and the nonviolent protests are etched into the nation's memory. But beneath the powerful images of Selma and Montgomery lies a lesser-known crusade, the fight for economic justice. This was a vision that extended beyond the ballot box and the desegregated lunch counter. It was a call to change the very fabric of American wealth, to unlock doors that had been barred for generations. From the dusty streets of the South to the bustling cities of the North, King's economic dream was a challenge to a system that had long profited by inequality. In the early 1960s, as the civil rights movement gained momentum, King began to speak more openly about economic disparity. He understood that legal rights without economic power could not guarantee true freedom. For many Black Americans, the struggle was not only against the visible chains of segregation, but also against the invisible chains of poverty and systemic exclusion. The economic structures of the United States, built on centuries of racial oppression, had left Black communities marginalized, their labor exploited, yet their wealth stifled. King's vision was revolutionary, a society where ownership of homes, businesses, land, and capital was within reach for all. This was the unfinished business of freedom, the next frontier beyond civil rights. The march from Selma to Montgomery in 1965 was a pivotal moment in the civil rights movement, securing voting rights for Black Americans. Yet, behind the triumphant headlines, King and other leaders were acutely aware that the vote alone would not erase economic injustice. He articulated this truth in speeches that echoed with urgency. The promise of the civil rights era must include economic empowerment. King's Poor People's Campaign, launched in 1968, sought to unite poor Americans of all races in a fight for jobs, fair wages, and a guaranteed income. Well, it was a bold reminder that poverty was the ultimate barrier to freedom, and that economic justice was inseparable from civil rights. King's economic vision was deeply rooted in the Black church's tradition of community uplift and mutual aid. Churches were not only sanctuaries for worship, but also centers of economic activism. They nurtured cooperative businesses, credit unions, and savings clubs, fostering a culture of self-reliance and collective progress. King saw these grassroots efforts as vital to building Black wealth. Yet he also recognized the limits imposed by systemic barriers, discriminatory lending practices, redlining, and exclusion from mainstream financial institutions. The dream of economic ownership was often thwarted by policies designed to keep Black Americans from accumulating wealth. King's challenge was to confront these structural inequities head-on. Across the country, Black entrepreneurs were quietly laying the groundwork for economic independence. From barbershops to banks, from beauty salons to insurance companies, Black-owned businesses became hubs of economic resilience and pride. These enterprises not only provided essential services, but also circulated wealth within the community. King celebrated these achievements while calling for broader systemic change. He envisioned a future where Black capital could fuel economic growth, create jobs, and transform neighborhoods. Ownership, he insisted, was the key to dignity and self-determination. Without it, equality remained incomplete, a door half opened but never fully unlocked. The 1968 assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. sent shockwaves through the nation and the movement he led. Yet, even in death, his economic dream endured. The Poor People's Campaign, carried forward by his followers, sought to address the interlocking crises of racism and poverty. The campaign's vision was radical, a multiracial coalition demanding a fair minimum wage, affordable housing, and access to health care. It challenged the nation to reckon with its economic inequalities, and to envision a society where no one was left behind. King's legacy in economic justice remains a call to action, reminding us that the fight for equality must include the fight for economic empowerment. To understand King's economic dream, we must look at the historical roots of black economic disenfranchisement. The legacy of slavery left millions without land or capital at emancipation. Sharecropping replaced bondage, but entrenched poverty and debt. Jim Crow laws ensured segregation extended into economic life, limiting access to quality jobs and financial services. The New Deal's benefits often bypassed black workers, and post-war prosperity rarely reached black neighborhoods. King's economic vision was a direct response to this history, a demand for reparative justice that would break the cycle of poverty and exclusion. It was a call to redistribute not charity, but opportunity and ownership. In his speeches and writings, King frequently referenced the giant triplets of racism, militarism, and economic exploitation. He warned that civil rights without economic rights were insufficient. He called for a radical redistribution of wealth and power, envisioning a society where poverty was abolished and the fruits of economic progress were shared equitably. This vision challenged the very foundations of American capitalism, which had long depended on racial hierarchies to sustain inequality. King's economic dream was not merely aspirational. It was a blueprint for structural transformation that demanded courage, coalition building, and a reimagining of justice. King's economic activism also intersected with labor movements and unions, which represented a powerful force for workers' rights and economic fairness. He saw alliances between civil rights organizations and labor unions as essential to advancing economic justice. The All People's Campaign sought to harness this potential, uniting low-wage workers across racial lines. Yet, this coalition building was met with resistance from entrenched interests and political opposition. The economic status quo was fiercely defended, revealing the depth of the challenge King faced. His dream of economic ownership was a challenge to those who profited from maintaining inequality. In the years since King's death, the economic disparities he sought to erase have persisted, even as legal segregation faded. The racial wealth gap remains a stark reminder of the unfinished work of economic justice. Yet, King's dream lives on in movements for economic equity, community wealth building, and reparations. Across the nation, activists and entrepreneurs draw inspiration from his vision, working to create new pathways to ownership and prosperity. The story of Martin Luther King Jr. His economic dream is not just history, it is a living, evolving struggle that continues to shape the future of American democracy. The roots of King's economic vision are visible in today's efforts to build black wealth through home ownership, business development, and financial literacy. Community land trusts, cooperative enterprises, and impact investing are modern echoes of his call to economic empowerment. These initiatives confront the systemic barriers King identified, offering models of ownership that resist displacement and inequality. King's economic dream challenges us to think beyond survival to flourishing, to imagine a society where wealth is not a privilege of the few, but a right of the many. It is a dream that asks us to confront history and build a more just future. As we reflect on Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy, we are reminded that the civil rights movement was not only about integration, but transformation. The March from Marches to Millions is a journey toward economic justice that is far from complete. King's dream calls on each generation to engage with the unfinished business of freedom, not only to break down barriers, but to build new institutions that embody equality in wealth and opportunity. His vision challenges us to see economic justice as a fundamental human right, intertwined with dignity, democracy, and hope. In this, his dream remains as urgent and inspiring as ever. He wanted more than equality, he wanted ownership. Martin Luther King Jr. This economic dream is a testament to the enduring power of hope and the unyielding quest for justice. It is a call to reclaim not only the rights of citizenship, but the wealth that sustains it. As we carry forward his legacy, we remember that true freedom is not only the right to walk freely in public spaces, but the right to own a home, to build a business, and to pass on prosperity to the next generation. This is the Roots Renaissance, the rebirth of a dream that demands we move from marches to millions, from protest to prosperity, from promise to power. This has been Roots Renaissance. See you in the next chapter.